In this video, I'm going to try and answer as many of your questions as I can. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in their questions on Instagram or by email. I'm assisted by my lovely pug, who's decided that she wants to be part of this video. So, first question. The first question I have is, do you think that the ranking of your university matters or will affect you if you want to be a barrister? That's a really good question. It's one that a lot of people worry about. Your university shouldn't matter, and the reason I say shouldn't and not doesn't is because I can't speak for all chambers. What I do know is that a lot of chambers, when they're looking at your pupillage applications, will remove people's university, so they'll do a blind assessment of your application. They'll also remove other factors that people might have, unconscious biases about. So for example, someone's name, or where the person went to school, their age, their gender. So the bar really is trying, and I know firsthand that some chambers definitely are doing blind applications in relation to university. Next question. How did you motivate yourself when studying was becoming more challenging? This is a really good question. It can be really difficult to remain motivated, and as I'm recording this video, we are currently living in a whole new world. Coronavirus has meant that for a lot of people, they're not going to school anymore, they've come home from university, their exams are cancelled, and so it really is a time where it might be exceptionally difficult to motivate yourself to continue studying. What I would do is I would create to-do lists, and I would try to check off on my to-do list things that I needed to do every day. So I would do daily lists of things that I needed to get done and tick them off. I found that really helped to narrow down the things that were really urgent and the things that could be done over a longer spread of time. And also, it's quite satisfying just ticking and highlighting things generally. Okay, next question. This is one that I get asked a lot. How many mini pupilages did you do? First thing I'd say is don't stress if you haven't done that many mini pupilages. It's not a tick box exercise. You don't get a tick for every mini pupillage you've done. However, having said that, I do think it's important that you do a range of mini pupilages so that you have a good understanding of the type of law that you want to go into and the type of practice that you're hoping to have. Now that doesn't really answer the question, does it? I did about 10 or 11 mini pupilages. If you want to check out which ones I did, feel free to go onto my LinkedIn, I've put them all on there. I did them at a range of sets. I was pretty sure I wanted to go into criminal law. I decided to do them at not just criminal chambers, so I did them at mixed sets, mainly so that I could get a feel for some other areas of law, just to make sure that I was making the right decision. Weirdly enough, I didn't actually do any mini pupilages at any family sets. I was only exposed to family law once I was already in pupillage. So don't be too narrow-minded. It's to give you a flavour of the type of work that you'll be doing in pupillage. Okay, we've got a great question here. If you want to become a barrister, does it matter whether or not you have a law degree or whether you did the GDL? As I'm sure some of you might know, I did the GDL, so hopefully that in and of itself is testament to the fact that you don't have to have done a law degree. I studied PPE, so politics, philosophy and economics at university, and I loved it. So my advice would be, if you're at the stage of choosing what degree you want to do whatever you love, because the most important thing is that you do well in your degree. Next question. Can you please explain the stages of becoming a barrister? So there are 4 stages really to becoming a barrister. The first is your degree. That degree, as I've said in answer to one of the other questions, doesn't have to be law. It can be something else that you're interested in, and then you can convert to law afterwards by doing what's called the GDL. And GDL stands for Graduate Diploma in Law. So that's a 1-year law conversion course, although you can do it part-time over 2 years. After that stage, so your degree in GDL or your law degree, you then go on to do the bar professional training course. The Bar Professional Training course is a 1-year course. Again, you can do it part-time over 2 years, but it's a course in which you learn the basic skills of becoming a barrister. You'll do advocacy classes, you'll practice drafting, you'll practice opinion writing, you'll learn about criminal and civil litigation. So that's where you learn your core skills. The third stage is pupillage. A pupillage is a bit like an apprenticeship. During your pupillage year, you'll spend the first 6 months shadowing a senior barrister and seeing everything that they do and assisting them with work. And then in your second 6 months, if you're doing a 12-month pupillage, you will do your own cases. So you'll get the opportunity to take on your own clients, particularly in criminal and family law. You'll get that responsibility from day one of your second 6 months. Some chambers require you to do an 18-month pupillage. For those pupillages, what happens is you still do the 6 months of shadowing, it's just that you then do 12 months of practicing your own cases. The fourth stage is tenancy. After you finish your pupillage, you can apply for tenancy at your chambers or you can apply for tenancy elsewhere. And once you are offered tenancy, that's a place in a chamber, so somewhere you can affiliate with, because remember, barristers are self-employed, so it's not actually a job offer, it is an affiliation essentially with a chambers. Next question. Do you go to court by yourself or with any partner? Most of the time I go to court by myself. Sometimes my instructing solicitor, so the solicitor that sends me the case, will come along to court with me and we will meet with the client together. That can be in a case that's particularly complicated or where the client might need some extra support, but most of the time I go to court by myself. This is one of my favourite questions. How did you decide what inn to apply for? There are 4 inns of court. There's Middle Temple, Inner Temple, Grays and Lincoln's Inn. There's not a huge amount of difference between the 4 inns of court, although everyone who is part of one of them will claim that theirs is the best. For me, I was really drawn to the fact that Middle Temple interviewed everyone who applied for a scholarship, and I wanted to apply for a scholarship, and I really liked that about them. I also really liked the feel of Middle. I went and looked around some of the inns and I just got a nice feeling. I thought I'd be happy there, and I am. So yeah, I really like Middle Temple, but I'm sure people at Gray's Inn, Lincoln's Inn and Inner Temple would say the same. Okay, I got a few questions asking about vacation schemes. Vacation schemes are more relevant to solicitors than to barristers. Vacation schemes are essentially work experience that you do at a solicitor's firm, a bit like a mini pupillage that you do with barristers. So in answer to everyone's questions who asked whether I did a vacation scheme, no, I didn't. I knew that I wanted to go down the barrister route, so I didn't worry about any vacation schemes. The one thing I would say is that doing a vacation scheme might help you to decide whether or not you want to go down the solicitor route or the barrister route. A lot of people have asked when you would apply for a BPTC scholarship, so a Bar Professional Training Course scholarship. My answer to that is I applied when I was doing the GDL, so the year before. What I would say is have a look at the Inns of Court website. That's where you will apply, and there may be date changes. Don't rely on when I applied. Have a look for yourself on the Inns website. Next question. What advice would you give to a first-year law student aspiring to be a barrister? First of all, I'd say it's amazing that in your first year of university you're already set on your career. I certainly hadn't decided that far in advance, so it's great. I'd say keep your mind open. Well, I know right now we're in a bit of a difficult position and court hearings are not happening in the way they were before. There's a lot of telephone hearings. So practically right now I'd say keep up to date on court news. A lot of journalists are still reporting on the hearings that are taking place, so keep up to date with that. Read fun legal books. There's so many books out there now. If you want some book recommendations, head over to my Instagram page. On my Instagram I have a highlight called Books, and I post all the books that I enjoy reading, and a lot of them are legal books or have an edge to them. Next question. How do I stand out when I'm submitting applications? Now, of course, if I give you something to say to stand out on a YouTube video, chances are you're not going to stand out. But the best way to stand out, being completely honest, is to be you. Because as cliche as that sounds, there is only one you. I think it's really important that people try to get who they are across in their applications. I think the more you try to show people who you are, the more likely you are to stand out, and hopefully for the right reasons. Next question. How does a barrister's salary work? Do you earn monthly or ... This question made me laugh because, I mean, do we earn monthly? Who knows? We are self-employed, which means that we are paid for the cases that we do. So we don't receive a salary in the way that employed people do. We are paid as and when, essentially. That can be quite unpredictable, and it's something that I think anyone aspiring to be a barrister should be aware of. How does the self-employed thing work when you work in a chambers? A chambers is slightly like an agency for when you do temporary work. When you do temporary work, you are under the name and the branding of an agency. Companies will come to that agency and ask for workers, and that agency will provide the workers. It's similar to the bar. Solicitors require our services. We are affiliated with the chambers, but we still are self-employed. Solicitors will go to our chambers and say either I want that specific person, or here's a case, we need someone for this case, and chambers will provide us to the solicitors. Hopefully that makes sense. It can be a bit confusing. What made you want to be a barrister and not a solicitor? The key thing for me was advocacy. As you can probably tell from the fact that I'm making YouTube videos of me talking, I love speaking. I love public speaking, I love speaking in court, I love speaking to clients. I just love talking so much. So yes, for me it's the advocacy. Is it possible to get a pupillage without a first or a high 2-1 in your undergraduate? Competition is high at the bar. There will be so many students who are applying for pupillage with high 2-1s or firsts, and they are going to be your competition, frankly. However, that doesn't mean if you've got a 2-2 that you will not get pupillage. I know at least 2 barristers who are brilliant and at brilliant sets of chambers who got 2-2 degrees. So what I would say is, if you do have a 2-2, be aware of the competition around you. Think about ways that you might be able to supplement your application. Do you, for example, have excellent experience? It might just take you a little bit longer than it might take someone else. And if you have mitigating circumstances, put that down. Barristers are human, and the people looking through your application might automatically decide to not look at your application, or they might have a read of your mitigating circumstances and feel that actually, on the whole, that grade doesn't matter too much. So yes, of course, with a 2-2 you can get pupillage. What do you find the most rewarding about your job? For me, it's meeting new people and sometimes seeing the same clients and being trusted with some of the most important things in their lives. I represent people who, in criminal cases, are at risk of losing their liberty. In family cases, might be at risk of not seeing their children. For me, that's the most rewarding thing in the world. What's the hardest or the easiest part of pupillage year? The hardest thing is that you know that there's going to be a decision at the end of the year about whether or not you're going to be offered tenancy, and so it feels a bit like you're on a year-long interview, and that can be really difficult. The easiest thing is probably, it's a good question. For me it was probably the noting brief. We were instructed to do a noting brief, which is essentially taking a note of a criminal trial. So we go along and take a note. Yeah, that was the easiest, the noting brief. Yeah, I know that I was sent a lot more questions than I've been able to answer. I just don't want this video to go on forever. I'm sure you're probably bored of me talking by now. I will do another Q&A to try and address some of the other questions that people have sent me, but please feel free to send me some more questions in the meantime, and I really do hope that this was useful. Thanks so much for watching.